If you've ever played a game or been interested in a game purely by name alone, then come and join my club, because that's what happened today with Retired Men's Nude Beach Volleyball League. Caveat up front, there's no king dingalings or dongs in this game. It is all purely implied nudity, and you'll be seeing just pink pixelated blobs of humans from afar. No swinging dingings. This game sees you play as Len, who's an 80-year-old retired man who feels invisible and alone in the world and kind of wondering what's left to do with life. And so on a whim, he picks up a flyer to join the Nude Beach Volleyball League. And each level in the game sees you travelling to a new location and having an opponent to versus against in the first to 25 round of volleyball. This game is heavily chunked into two specific elements. One you've got, which is the most part, is the volleyball section, and I'll dive into that in a second. And the second part is what also takes place between matches, but during matches too, where your opponents will talk to you about their personality and you'll have kind of a philosophical discussion. But then between events, you'll also drive to the next town and have a kind of reminisce back over your life and how you kind of view your memories, your history, your legacy. And that's quite an interesting take, because you don't really get this viewpoint too often from 80-year-old men, particularly ones that quite being the nud, just reflecting back on life, and it's an interesting voice to have in gaming. It's such a shame though that the volleyball section of this game is absolutely atrocious, and I'm being kind. You move Len around with the left analog stick. He has one button to then punt the ball back over the net, but it doesn't even have to go above the net. You can go under, and that is perfectly fine too by the game's rules. It doesn't happen very often, but it can be quite useful. There's only one shot that you can do, so it will just automatically do it for you when you hit the ball. But the other problem is that you don't have any particular direction for where your ball will go, no speed, no power, no control. And so the game entirely feels utterly random. Add to that the amount of bugs that take place in this game during the volleyball section, and it starts to move from being uncontrollable into pure frustration. For instance, what is classed as in and out is down visually that doesn't align to the courts, and so sometimes it will say something's in when you can visually see it's out, and vice versa, just depending on how it's lined up collision detection wise. The other issue that you have is that points aren't always awarded properly, and so sometimes I would get 2 points, sometimes the opponent would, even though it's only a 1 point per match win. Don't know why. You'd also then get it where it would say, "You're out," and you've clearly lost the point, and then you would get awarded one anyway. Or it would say that you've won the point and it would award it to the other team. And you're thinking, well, no, that's not how this works. And it just seems to, I would say literally 1 in every 10 points that's awarded in this game is incorrectly awarded. And that's even more frustration, because you think, oh, come on, I'm really wrestling with a terribly implemented, simplified Pong game here, and it can't even get that right. And so you're kind of already on a short fuse before you even get to the good juicy story element of it, which makes up only about 20% of the game's runtime. There's also another problem that really annoyed me with the volleyball game, and it's to do with what's classed as out. So you can hit balls down, not that you can control it, but if balls go towards the bottom of the screen, it can actually land out. But there's an invisible wall on the top half of the screen which basically bounces balls back into the court again. So I spent ages thinking, oh, I'm going to be out, it's going to be out, and it doesn't. It just always rebounds back in again. So it kind of makes you go, ugh. Well, even if I could control the ball, I wouldn't put it up there anyway. But it's a moot point because you can't control the ball, because it's frustrating. Ah! So yeah, I found the volleyball side of things really, really painful to play. And that's a shame, because it mutes all of the interesting stuff from the story perspective. Every opponent that you have comes with a different personality trait and a different view on their life and their world, because they're all retired too. And so some people have carried through their entire life like it is a competition, and life is something you have to win at. You can't just simply be and enjoy. Someone else just wants to regress back to a child again and never grow up. Someone else just wants to give kindness to the world. And all of these different viewpoints eventually funnel down to taking a look pragmatically at life and thinking about how can you be more kind to yourself and everyone around you. And I really like that. There's also some interesting hidden stuff behind the scenes, such as when you try to exit the game, you don't exit onto your desktop, you exit onto Lens, and you start to find out more about his life as you read through his emails, what he saves in Notepad, all of that kind of stuff. And there's some really good ideas here that are just utterly weighed down and drowned by this really poor volleyball implementation. If it was less janky, I'd perhaps give this as a potential recommend for some people who like visual novel stories. But I don't see why you should have to sit through a really painful 15-minute to 20-minute experience with volleyball for 2 or 3 minutes of visual novel text adventuring. That's the good bit. The bad outweighs the good here, sadly, for this game specifically. Hope that was informative. I really wanted to like this. Unfortunately, it just wasn't for me, but perhaps some of you out there are quite happy to sit through some of that jank to get to some of the juicy stuff towards the end of the game. Written review over on highplanegames.com. You guys take care. Bye. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.